Hey guys, welcome back to EL Arkansas. It's been a long day and it was a long night the night before. I put the finishing touches on some test ammunition for the 338 Lapua. Um, with this test ammunition, I decided to go back to the US 869 because Hodgson actually has published load data for US 869 and a 300 grain Sierra Match King. Originally, I'd tried using it with a 250 grain Alco and also a 285 grain Hornady ELD-M, and I didn't get very good results with those. I got pretty good velocity with it. Of course, I'm running. You gotta keep in mind my 338 Lapua Savage Elite 110 Precision or Elite Precision 110. I don't really know how that goes, but it comes with a factory 30-inch barrel without the muzzle brake. So you add the muzzle brake to it, and you got like a 33-inch barrel. Um, and in Hodgson's test, their test barrel was actually only 24 inches, and they're showing that they're, you know, actually, I'll show it to you. Hang on just a second. Let me grab a hold of this. So check the US 869. If you go here, 338 Lapua mag, 104 grains of powder, 300 grains Sierra. They're using normal brass with a Federal 215M. Their COAL is 3600, and they are stating a velocity of 2677. If you actually go to Hodgson's website, you can get a printout of that test and with a little more detail. Basically, you get the actual firearm specs that they were testing it from, and it was a 24-inch barrel. Now, we don't know what kind of barrel they're using, but it's a 24-inch barrel. I'm running a 30-inch barrel, so I've got an extra 6 inches on there to maybe squeeze out a little bit more velocity. We don't really know. So, I'm going to do some testing tomorrow. And by the way, on this brass, I went ahead and on these 50 pieces of Hornady brass, some of this brass has only been fired out of my gun, and some of this brass was fired out of another Savage Elite Precision 338 Lapua. So, some of it was fired out of my gun, and some of it was fired out of a quote unquote identical gun, if you know what I'm trying to say. Another Savage Elite Precision 110 338 Lapua. So, but everybody knows, especially if you're like really serious into this, that even if you've got identical guns, even if they have sequential serial numbers on them, they're going to shoot a little bit different. So I went ahead and I turned all the necks on this brass, and I uniformed the primer pockets and the flash holes. And it was kind of interesting to me that some of the flash holes were significantly tighter than others on Hornady brass. Hornady has been pretty good brass for the most part, with anything I've ever shot that was Hornady. Now, early on in my shooting career, when I was like really into, I had a single shot break action 223 that was just amazing. That thing was dead nuts accurate. You could shoot 5 rounds through the same hole. I mean, it was like a freak gun, and it was a really cheap gun. Like I don't know. I think I paid $150 for it. I bought it off of an uncle of mine, um, and it was incredibly accurate. But I sold it a little while back, a few months back, to fund some more projects and this and that. Basically, just got my money back out of it. I wasn't trying to make money on it, but to the day that I had at that point that rifle's got 2,000 rounds through it, and the guy that I sold it to was like, super excited. I mean, even like 8 months later after I sold it to him or so, he still like loves the thing. He bought it for his daughter that's getting into shooting, and he said that it's one of the most accurate, like if not the most accurate 223 he's ever shot. It just shoots bug holes all day, every day. It's like a freak gun, and it was a handy rifle. Handy rifle, break action, bull barrel, 16-inch, 223, just stupid accurate gun. Um, but anyways, I want to get back into this. I digress a little here. So take a look at this we did. So this is part of the kit tomorrow. We're going to start at 104 grains, which is what Hornady says was their max load with a 300 grain bullet. We're starting at 104, and the reason why we're starting at 104 is because I'm seating the bullets out further. If you noticed on their bullet seating depth was 3.600 inches. I'm seating these to 3.685-ish, somewhere in there, so quite a bit further out. It doesn't sound like a lot. It's 8/100ths longer, but it's a lot. It's longer and gives me a little extra case capacity, a little extra cushion there, and potentially will lower the pressure some. But so I can add a little more powder and get a little more velocity. Of course, running the 30-inch barrel, there's no telling these 104 grain loads. We're probably going to start out close to about 20. I'm just going to make a guess. I'm going to say 2770 or 2750, 2770, somewhere in there. About 70 to 100 feet per second faster than what they claim on Hodgson's website for 104 grains of powder. So, anyways, right here in front of me is basically all the equipment that I'm taking with me tomorrow. So I'm just going to explain a little bit of that. So, zoom out just a little bit. There's the rifle. That's the Savage Elite 110 Precision 338 Lapua. All 55 inches of it, 20 pounds plus with the scope. Right here we got our ammo box, all of our test ammo. We got our ammo logbook, probably one of the most important things to have. Right here, labeled Savage Elite Precision 338. We've got a laser temperature measuring tool. Got the Kestrel. This is the Kestrel 5000. This does not have ballistic software in it. That's because I'm kind of using my own free software. I've typically been using a lot of JBM ballistics. And I get good signal at the range, so I can go ahead and type it in real quick and then get what I need. Based on the information that this gives me and the information that this gives me, I can input those values into the ballistic software, and it'll give me a drop value and whatnot. So, aside from that, we're going to come up here. We got our spotting scope in this bag, and this is not an expensive spotting scope. This is a Athlon 20 to 60 power spotting scope. I think I paid like $170 for it, give or take. It was like a $300 spotting scope, and I got it on sale. I think they've got a new edition of this coming out, and so I picked it up and it's being discontinued or something like that. I got it pretty cheap. Caldwell Ballistic Precision Chronograph, pretty standard. Not real expensive, about $120, $130, give or take. Free targets from Midway. Like, and this may be a tip to some of you guys out there. If you go on to Midway's website and type in Target or Target Print, you can actually print off targets from Midway for free. Well, basically for free. I mean, you're going to have to supply the printer paper, the printer, and the ink, but most people already have that at home, so you can print off targets for free, way cheaper than going to a place and buying targets. And then moving on, I've got my shooting mat. I have not shot this gun laying prone yet, so it's going to be interesting. I want to start shooting it prone, and I've got actually a plan to change something up on the front end here with the bipod. I haven't really developed anything yet, but I'm drawing up a little bit of a design for a different a rest to put the bipod on that will basically, in theory, in my mind, what I'm trying to accomplish is that it's going to absorb the harmonics into the pad that I'm planning to design and build underneath that you set the bipod on. Which I don't know if it's going to be a bag full of sand or some sort of platform that absorbs energy really well and doesn't reverberate or transfer it back, is what I'm planning on doing. And so it will absorb rifle harmonics and whatnot, and not transfer those harmonics back into the rifle. And hopefully that will, I don't know. I haven't really gotten into developing it yet, working on it, actually building the thing. But hopefully it works out. And if not, maybe back to the drawing board, that sort of thing. So aside from that, I just got my rifle. Got a Vortex Strike Eagle 5-25 scope on it with Vortex mounts and whatnot. The rifle comes with a 20-minute rail already mounted. And then on the end here, I've got an Area 419 Hellfire brake, and it does really good on this gun. Even shooting some heavy 300 grainers out of it, it's pretty light recoiling. Now, when I go down to like that 225, when I go down to that 225 Barnes TSX hunting bullet, the recoil is like really light on this rifle, considering how much power is coming out of the end of it. When I'm sending a 225 grain bullet down range at 3,200 feet per second, and we're talking, like well into the 5,000 foot-pound range, like 52, 53, 5,400 foot-pounds of energy right out of the muzzle. The whole equal and opposite reaction deal is the one of those main laws of physics. I believe Newton's third law of physics. I don't know. I'm not a super geeky nerd science guy, but it's important that you know that the concept of that law of physics with the equal and opposite reaction. So we're sending a 225 grain bullet out at 3,150, 3,200 feet per second, and in return, the amount of pressure and force it takes to get that bullet moving that quickly out of that out of a 30-inch barrel, is also equally pushing back against the rifle, and it is, give or take 20, 22 pounds with the scope on it and whatnot. So there is still quite a bit of recoil. If the brake was not on there would be something like about 60 or 70 foot-pounds of felt recoil, which would hurt quite a lot. That would be pretty painful, but thankfully this muzzle brake's actually really efficient at mitigating recoil, and you really only feel about 20 to 30 foot-pounds of recoil or so, something like that. And, about like shooting a 12 gauge with some birdshot. So, anyways, tomorrow we're going to head to the range. We're going to go early, and it's going to be it's going to be cold outside. They're expecting in the morning time, about the time we leave, about the time I pack all this stuff and head out, it is about 6 a.m. I'm going to try to leave here about 6. Try to get to the range by 7, around 7 o'clock, and set up and shooting by 7:30. And about that time, it may have warmed up to 28 degrees or so, like real bright and crisp early in the morning. At 6, we're going to be about 25 degrees. And then by the time we get done shooting, about 8, 9 o'clock, will be about 30, 32 degrees, somewhere in there. So it's going to be a really crisp morning. And it's going to be interesting to see how this ammunition temperature and rifle handles that, because the ammo sitting out over time at the range on the bench is going to be cooling down, and the rifle chamber as I'm shooting is going to be heating up. So we're probably going to see some pretty high extreme spreads in velocity depending on how long I let the rounds sit in the chamber as the rifle and the chamber is heating up. Because the first few rounds where the bore and the chamber's pretty cold, I'm betting that the velocity, is going to be pretty low. And then all of a sudden we're going to start seeing a jump in velocity due to the warmer barrel and the warmer chamber actually physically heating the powder up in these cases before we fire. And powder is temperature sensitive. This US 869 powder is not one of Hoshin's extreme powders. It's not designed to handle fluctuations in temperature very well. And so I'm expecting some pretty high extreme spreads. But who knows? We might get lucky and we might not run into that problem. So we'll see. We'll find out. Anyways, I'm going to get some rest because last night I was up working on this brass until 1:30, and then finally decided enough was enough and went to bed. And then today I basically worked 14 hours, worked both my jobs, and at this point it's 10 o'clock, 10:09 right now. I just got home and I started work at 7 this morning, so yeah, I'm pretty wore out. Anyways, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning, getting our 338 Lapua on with some 300 grain burgers and US 869 powder, Federal 215M primers. So we'll see you. Thanks for watching. EL Arkansas.